Setting the release date finally for the 6-part series of ANIKULAPO Rise of the Spectre is a final relief for filmmaker Gabriel Afolayan, who has worked really hard to create what he has described on many occasions as a phenomenal project.
The moment for ASAP.
So put him like when it comes out. Can I show you? You're in the process of creating something. Of course, you get excited, you get anxious, you get all of that. And then and you'll say, oh, once this is done, I'll be relieved. But after it's done, you're like, hey, so how do I take it to the next? You know, just like as soon as we finish, when we were filming this scene, this show, I said, this is all I'm doing for the year. After this, I'm not doing anything again. But in November, I got restless. And I said, actually, I can shoot one small film before the next one. And I shot that in November. And then I'm like, actually, we've not written the script for season 2, but I can start prepping for season 2. Right. And then I started commissioning to say, look, I know we're going to do war, even though the script is not written. I said, so let's start making props for war and this and all of that. So that is how creative minds, you know, are wired. This is just another one. But I'm really excited because this is my first series, right? And I've always wanted to, not like I wanted to prove something to anybody or I owe anybody explanation, but I wanted to prove to the world that something of this standard, something this beautiful, can actually come from the continent. Look, you can say African cinema, but when you're saying African cinema, I'll say Nigeria takes like 70% of that African cinema. One, in terms of the number of content we put out there, and in terms of representation globally. And that is why a Netflix will say, oh, this is an African show. Well, primarily we're shooting this for Africa, but then you are releasing in 190 countries all around the world.
While the story, which started in the 2022 feature ANIKULAPO, focused more on the Saro character and his lover, Arolake, this new series introduces new characters and actors, and one of them is the Basharon character played by Ogundes, the son of the legendary king of Nigerian theatre. As expected, he's thoroughbred from being part of the Ogundes dynasty, but moved away from the sudden death of the legend. Coming back into the fray means he has to first deal with the pressure of being the son of a legend.
tó fi ògùn rẹ̀ dè í mọ́lẹ̀ á mú á sì pa sójúde ọjà.
Yes, of course. In fact, I think after we met and he mentioned it, and he's quite right. When he first told me, I just ha 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 ha, very funny, because when my father passed in 1990. I was working with him. I left school to work with him. And I was there. And the plan was I was going to be his successor. But that never materialized because he passed what we would consider suddenly. And after that, I actually, I was here for another 2 years working with National Troop, etc. And then I traveled. But when I traveled, the reason I actually traveled was that I gradually kind of fell out of love. Because when he passed, it was like it closed that chapter. Because I never really got everything that I wanted from him. And I didn't feel that I had everything that I needed to continue. So I went off it. Only when I met him, he brought a lot of the history, because we share quite a lot of experiences together growing up in a house of legend. And when he mentioned that, and he came to that conclusion pretty quickly, within an hour of us meeting, he sounded, you know, the idea. So if you've never met before, I've never even watched the first ANIKULAPO at that time. So it's to tell you that I knew nothing. So of course I would laugh. But then when I read the script, the next thing he did was I read the script. I knew straight away this is not a joke. And if I'm going to come back, there will never be a better stage than this. I knew that from just reading the script and watching the first film. So then it was, am I going to come or not? I struggled with that. At least 50% of the people that I run the idea past said, no, don't do it. And one of the things I struggled with is exactly that. People will compare you with your father. How are you going to deal with that? Of course, in the end, I had to move past that. I was asked actually a question earlier on, and I'm just reflecting now. I think if I look back, what is my favorite bit in all of this? Actually, I think my favorite bit is his genius idea to have my dad's trademark look, which actually initially I didn't like. But looking back, it's a genius idea because it transformed, for me, the character, the way that I come across and the way that that everything kind of happened in the end. I think that's a key decision. And looking back now, actually, that's my favorite bit.
Shola Sobowale's character, Awarun, grew a little more into the spotlight in the series, and her big trait of independence and being woman of strength could not be overlooked. She believes that it further buttresses the argument that women have always been powerful even before the Western civilization, and she hopes this can inspire today's young women to become whatever they wish.
Determination. That's one thing. You are determined to be who you are. This is where I want to get to. And no distraction. And you believe in yourself that hard work will take you anywhere. There's no corner, there's no shortcut. You just have to go all the way. I want to get there, I want to get there. But not in another, look me, I'm beautiful. It's hard work. That's what Awarun did.
Let's go, guys. 3 more scenes to knock out.
The story grows broader and touches on a bit of history, including the friction between the Oyo Kingdom and Ede community and the religious crusade during the spread of Islam in Yoruba land. That bit of history, Afolayan says, he got from the almost forgotten divinations of Yoruba gods and some old eulogies that is always embedded with stories from history.
Real custodian of history is actually Ifa, is Odufa. Because all the orikis in the world, all the orikis of individuals and the different houses and the different ethnics are all in Ifa, right? I don't know much about Ifa, right? I'm not, I don't do religion, but then for me, knowledge, if you really want to acquire knowledge, you need to understand, you need to read different things, all right? The Ede bit with the embracing Islam is true. Islam actually came, according to history, came through Ede. So they were the first to embrace Islam. And then it spread, so that was not something, that's part of history. As a matter of fact, it was when it was written and then the writer now, and I'm like, okay, that's actually true. And then there are quite a number of things that if you go to, and you can ask people who are custodians of Ifa or, the Babalawo and all of that. When you say Babalawo, now people would think they are the Juju people. Babalawo are custodians of Ifa. They are not Juju people. And these are knowledgeable, scholars. When you ask them, and then if they check the Odu, and they will say, oh, ni bakon, Orunmila lo si biba, Osheba. They won't lo si lekon. Then they will mention all of the different Ede. They will mention all the different stops and houses and villages and town in Yoruba Kingdom. It is all there. So anybody who wants to do anything, and I said this, and I'm sure I've mentioned this to you before, that for us, every content we do, we aim at achieving 3 things. 1, we want to educate. 2, we want to inform. Actually, 4 things. 3, we want to preserve, and 4, we want to entertain.
ANIKULAPO, The Rise of the Spectre, continues the stories of Saro and Arolake, both now walking separate paths, and it chronicles the consequences of their action and some individuals and some of the communities they pass through.
ìbínú àkàlà ló fa gbogbo.